Hi Aquarius, I hope that everybody's doing well. Before we get into it, let's set the intention for this to be a space where everyone allows themselves to feel seen and validated, and ultimately for this to be a safe space and a healing space in alignment with everyone's highest good. Alright, we're starting off with the Four of Wands. The Four of Wands is like smooth sailing that's going on. For some of you, there's a lot of thinking about maybe even a past relationship. Maybe someone from the past is coming up. Someone that you had been very familiar with at one point in time. For some of you, this is through memories, but there may actually be someone who's like revisiting your sphere. That's kind of what this feels like. Hiya. Ooh, but you feel in your head about this. I'm kind of getting a sense where it's like, let's just leave the past in the past. I don't really want to go through this again, but I don't know. Hi, something's going to be happening. Maybe you're still working things out too when it comes to the past experience that you had. Where are you going? All right. It's almost like something that you can't avoid that is just happening and you might as well go with it. And remembering the times when things were as you wanted them to be and like modeling your approach based off of that, I'm seeing that that's what is going to be helpful to you in this situation. It's like coming at it from a balanced place. I'm hearing something about paying respects. Maybe also approaching this with a sense of respect. Thank you for your patience. Yeah, it seems like there's going to be some change of attitude that's going on, but it's only happening after you reflect. It's like the reflection is absolutely necessary for this. Because I'm seeing that if this isn't worked on, it's not going to change. For some of you, this is about working through some type of past experience that has already occurred and being pushed into the potential for change, to create change. Maybe you don't know if it's going to be worth it to you. There's a sense of being like, well, if I do this or if I change that, is that even going to pay off for me? For some of you, there's a sense of like maybe even wanting to recreate or remanifest something from the past, a past relationship that you had. But maybe this is also why you're being guided to really think about this. Think about like what it is that you're channeling your energy into and what it is that you want to be the outcome, and if that's actually something that you want out of like an ego space or out of an attachment space, or if this is something that you want from like a more healed space. So maybe that's why this deliberation is happening, because I'm seeing that the more you look within, there's something that's changing for you. I am seeing it be related to a past experience that you had. A memory, a relationship, a person. For some of you, there's even still a sense of like waiting for somebody to come back and say something to you, and maybe you feel like you've still really been holding on to the idea of that, and it's like created maybe something within you that's not allowing you to move forward because you're still waiting. Yeah, here we are. I'm seeing that the guidance is for you to move on, to center and ground, and to continue on your path. It's like definitely the more that you're moving on, the easier you're finding the balance that you're looking to establish, the equanimity. That's that centered, grounded space. And the more you're going to be feeling like yourself as well. Because maybe there are some things that, like, when you're having a conversation between you and yourself here, you're recognizing that it's time to just let go of certain things and move on from it, finally. And that you're not going to be waiting around for something to come back through, because ultimately you don't need it. And it's kind of keeping you from more of a fluid motion that you want to be going in. Like maybe you feel like this has been keeping you kind of stagnant. I'm seeing healing that's being worked on, healing process, actually taking control of the healing process too. It feels as well like for some of you, there could have been a situation that happened and you feel like you were wronged in some sort of way, and there's a sense of like still holding on to this and really needing to let go of it. And it's like the more you're reflecting on this, the more you're recognizing that whether or not somebody comes back to say something to you, like your healing journey is absolutely completely up to you, and you're the one that's in control of that. So if you stay stuck, that is your prerogative, and if you want to heal, then that's yours too, but it's going to be whatever you make it. So I'm getting like a really big healing that's needed when it comes to the heart chakra. This feels like it's related to a significant relationship that you had. It's like someone that you felt very drawn to, someone you felt very attracted to. For some of you, you were actually dealing with another Aquarius. That may be a specific message, but I'm getting that very particularly. But I'm also seeing Virgo and Scorpio, and it's funny, I'm hearing Neptune, and I'm seeing Mercury here. Yeah, you may be in your head about actually moving on from this. It's like, even though you kind of know that it's a dead end, you may still be having a hard time moving forward. But I'm seeing that when you do, there's something that you've been looking for that you're going to find. Yeah. There's still definitely like tension and energetic, like I'm seeing a lot of energetic ties that you still have with this person. It's like you still see them maybe even as that person, but it's like when you think about it, you kind of know that it's not really going to work out. And maybe that you hope that it would, or like you're still hoping that someone changes. I think that I got into talking about this in a recent Aquarius video, I believe. When we have these models of reality that are related to like our expectations and how we want like the reality to be, sometimes we find out that that's not actually what's going on, and it comes time where we either need to accept it, or we're going to be living kind of in a place where we're out of touch, or maybe like a little bit delusional in relation to what's actually going on. And sometimes when we are having such a difficult time letting go of these models of reality that are not actually realistic and not actually what's happening, it keeps us in a place where we stop living our lives because we're waiting for things to happen that are extremely unlikely. And rather than living your life, you find yourself caught in this place because you're unwilling to accept what's actually going on. And this can happen with any sign, not just Aquarius, but it's a tendency that all of us struggle with when things don't go as expected, and it's related to these attachments that we have and wanting people to be a certain way. It's like, well, I would love you or I would be with you if only this would change, or if only you would act like this, or if you didn't do this anymore. So this is about getting to a place where you're sitting with yourself and being like, is this something I can deal with or not? Because if things are just what they are and I accept them for that, is that something that I'm willing to participate in? And if you're not, figuring out what you want to do next with that. And that's something for each of us to decide, because all of us have our different preferences and different things that we're willing to deal with, willing to compromise on, and not willing to compromise on. But I'm getting like some deep questions that need to be asked here. And I'm seeing that this too is going to relate to like future relationships as well that you have. And that's also why it needs to be worked out on, because it's like until you address this, I'm seeing like this sort of mind frame that has a difficult time accepting things for what they are. It's going to like kind of bleed into your relationships that you have presently and also in the future. And it's something that's going to affect them as well. Because when we're living in that state, there's always a sense of things like feeling unsatisfied. It's like in one moment you feel like everything's perfect, but as soon as you're reminded that like that person isn't living up to your expectations or whatever, things went that way, it's like immediately like that oscillation of going up and down, and you're happy and then you're not happy anymore, and then you feel fulfilled in a moment and then it's so fleeting, you don't feel like that any longer, and you're like, why do I feel like I keep going up and down and my feelings are all over the place? And this is about really needing to ground that energy, ground that attachment that we have, those expectations, and being able to clear out and shed old models that are not related to what's actually happening. Even if it is what you expect or what you hope or what you want to happen, if that's not what's actually happening, this is about getting into a place where we're accepting what's truly going on. Otherwise, you're always going to be unhappy because they don't fit. The expectations and what's going on, the puzzle pieces don't fit together. And so, like, you never really feel comfortable in that. You're never going to feel liberated. So this is about finding your liberation through adjusting to what's actually going on. Living in a reality that's congruent with how you're perceiving things. I'm hearing congruency specifically. I'm getting that this is something big. This also feels too like when we expect things from others that we should be giving ourselves, that we're meant to be giving ourselves, you're always going to be relying on other people, like people to love you because you're not giving yourself that self-love, like all of those forms of codependency that we can have. And it ends up tainting our relationships as well because of that, because you're not meeting your own needs. Because when you think about what's ideal for you when you get into a relationship, it would be like somebody most likely that is taking care of their own needs and then is able to attend to you, and you would want that reciprocated rather than having to caretake for somebody, you know, you'd want like some equal dynamic. But in order to have that, you need someone that's also going to be on their own wave. Because if you're in a place where you still are working with issues of codependency, If you're meeting somebody or in a relationship with someone and it's not actively being worked on, then it's going to form a codependent bond. And that leads to a lot of tension within the relationship. I feel like we're going down a rabbit hole. We're going to rewind back to where we are now. Yeah, I'm seeing something going on. It's like you feel love, you feel conflicted, you feel emotionally confused about something that's happening. It's like, maybe why isn't this working out? Why haven't I found this person? Like, why haven't I found a person that things are working out with in general? But it's like, maybe because you feel conflicted about your own self-love. It's like you have to get to a place where you're good on your own if you also want to meet someone that's good on their own too. You know what I mean? Because whatever it is that you're either overcompensating for or not taking care of or neglecting, you're going to be meeting a mirror of that. And so if you want someone that's going to be in a place where they're taking care of themselves, then you're also going to need to be in that place in order to get into contact with someone like that, if that's what you desire. And there's also nothing wrong with being single as well. I think sometimes in society we feel pressured into like needing to be in a relationship, or being in a relationship is better than being single, but I don't think one is better than the other. It's just about personal preference. Relationships are very difficult, absolutely. It's a constant yoga, constant dance. But yeah, maybe these are all things that you've been reflecting on. It's like needing to find that, needing to find that self-love. This feels very much like a concept that needs to be thought about. Because there's almost a sense of like still not being able to grasp something. And maybe it's because you haven't had like the time to be thinking about this and really reflecting on this. It's like when we get into a place where we're constantly in our brains in that space where it's like the root chakra, and it's like not going up any higher because you're thinking about just like meeting your needs. There's a sense of like not getting to a place where we're reflecting because you're constantly trying to like satiate every single impulse that you're having. So this is about getting to a place where you can step back behind that and be like, okay, I'm having this impulse, or I feel like this may be a need that I'm having right now, and being able to sit there and be like, okay, that's what I'm feeling right now, and not feel like you constantly need to act on that, or you're constantly seeking and searching. It's about being able to sit within that and be like, yes, this is what's going on right now, this is how I'm feeling, or this is what I'm desiring, and still being able to witness that rather than feeling like you need to get on it and do something about it. It's about being able to sit within that and really understanding like the patterns and what's going on, and knowing that just because you desire something or you want something, you don't need to fulfill that. Meaning you don't have to act on every impulse. You still get to decide to let it come, to let it go. Because it feels like just so many emotions and so many feelings, and like trying to get your bearing, but it's like one thing after the next is happening, and it's like you're trying to work through stuff. I'm seeing shadow work that's that you're working through, things that you're addressing here, but I'm getting that it's like things feel very muddled and very cloudy. And this is about like really making a decision here to address to address all of the internal conflict that you've been feeling. But it's like, it feels so subtle and so buried deep that it's hard to even recognize that that's what's going on and that's what's affecting you when it comes to like you getting deeper, more in touch with yourself, you feeling that love for yourself and all of that. It seems like there's a lot of digging that has to be gone through in order to get to that place where you're able to see things clearly and sort things out. And maybe too, this is about getting to a place where it's like the first step that you want to be doing is working on observing your emotions rather than reacting, and starting in that place. That kind of feels like the first step of what's going on here. And it's going to give you insight that you need in order to kind of kickstart what's happening. If you're curious about this notion of being the witness when it comes to your emotional process that you're going through and beyond, Ram Dass gives a lot of talks, which you can find on YouTube, about developing the witness, becoming the witness. So if you're looking to learn more about that, I'd absolutely recommend him. And here it is. It feels very much like working on the pursuit of happiness and finding the satisfaction that you're looking for, but absolutely needing to go through shadow work, because there may be those times where like instant gratification is being acted upon when it comes to impulses that you have, and you're recognizing that it's actually kind of like taking away from a deeper sense of fulfillment and happiness that you could be having. But because of shying away from shadow work at times, or because it's difficult, or maybe because you don't know where to start sometimes, or how to address certain things, there's a sense of like this absolutely having an effect on what it is that you're trying to build. So it really feels like getting deeper into understanding what's going on, like on a psychological level and beyond, on an emotional level. How you'll know that this is relevant to you is if you feel like there is like this oscillation, or it's like you constantly feel like you're falling into depression, or it's like then you feel happy and then you feel like it's always fleeting and you can't hold on to it. It's like when you feel all of this instability, like very much the opposite of equanimity, that is what this whole reading feels very much related to. And maybe it only happens in certain instances. Maybe for you, it's like, I usually feel fine, but as soon as I get into a serious relationship, then these things start acting up. So this is about figuring out in your life, like, where your triggers are in order to address those things too, and figure out where you have work to do. And, like, really taking responsibility for these things as well, and not putting them off onto other people too. And understanding that the way you feel, you are responsible for that. And the way other people feel, they are responsible for that. I'm looking at Neptune, Pluto. This seems like something very, very big that is going to be shifting, but something that may have been elusive until you started delving into it. It could have been something that you may not have even realized was happening. Something that could have been going on beyond, behind the scenes, maybe beyond the scenes. All right, my friends, we are going to leave the reading here. I would like to thank everybody for joining. Thank you for tuning in. I'm wishing everybody love and light and healing, and I hope to catch you guys next time.